7 HVAC traps that we've seen homeowners fall into. In this video, we're going to cover those traps and help you hopefully avoid some of these traps before you end up wasting money or your time with one of these. But do me a favor, before we introduce these 7 traps, do me a favor and click that subscribe button and that like button. Recently, the algorithm has not been liking our content. They've been suppressing our content for one reason or another. And if you hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a comment, that all helps. Let's dive into it. The 7 traps we see homeowners fall into that HVAC contractors or manufacturers are setting for you. The first one is there is some low quality IAQ, indoor air quality products out there on the market that we see homeowners buying, HVAC contractors selling. And at the end of the day, a lot of them don't do what they say they're going to. And if you see my content before, I call them the big 3, the big 3 being ventilation. So pulling fresh air into the home, trying to dilute that bad air with good air. Second one being filtration, making sure that you are filtering that air. There are some amazing filters out there with high ratings of being able to remove very small particulates, some of them even as small as viruses today. Now, you want to have it installed correctly so that way you're not adding what we call static to that system or restricting the airflow. So you don't want to just be slapping these products in left and right if you don't know what the static drop is of that filter. But if you're doing it properly, installing these products properly, so you've got fresh air, you've got filtration, and the third one being humidity control, making sure that the humidity is not too high or too low in that home, because if it's one or the other, you could have an array of air quality issues, making the air unsafe to breathe at times because of humidity alone. So that's the big 3. But aside from the big 3, there's an array of indoor air quality products out there. Some of them claiming to be air cleaners, some of those being air purifiers, whatever verbiage it uses. Just know that some of those, now I only say some are good. Some are good. Some do what they say they're going to, but some don't. And so the good thing about today, if you're watching this video, you might say, well, Josh, I don't really know what to do here. You're telling me that some of these products suck. How do I know? Now we have a way. If we had this conversation, say 10 or 20 years ago, when I first got into this trade, you didn't have any options. The only option was you just kind of either felt better or you didn't. You were having a scratchy throat, and then hopefully now you don't after installing that product. But today, aside from you being the test, which don't get me wrong, you should be a test. If you spend this kind of money that some of these companies are charging to install some of these products, and then that scratchy throat don't go away, or some of the other breathing issues that you're having, they don't go away, well, then that's a telltale sign that maybe it didn't do what it was supposed to. But the other thing you can do today that you couldn't years ago is you can actually test the air. There are an array of products out there, tools that you can actually test the air, know what things like the VOCs and the particulate count and all the different things of the air you're breathing and how safe it is. You can actually test before and after when you install these products. Number 2, the second trap is, in addition to some of these indoor air quality products, there are low quality products in our industry that sometimes it's kind of hard to pick them out. Especially, if I were talking to mom, if I was making a video for my own mother and I was telling her, hey, make sure you don't buy certain products. Some of them are low quality. I'm not sure that she would be able to look at some of these products. Maybe they have a flashy box, or it's sort of like going to a department store that the products are lower quality versus some of the high-end premium brands out there. It's just not the same. And I don't know that certain homeowners are going to be able to pick out what's lower quality. And so I would encourage you to get multiple opinions. I would encourage you to do your homework online, look at reviews before you spend the kind of money that some of these companies are charging, before you make a big mistake and not understand that some of these products are just simply low quality. The filter I've always used for equipment was to say, well, if you don't see the really good companies out there selling that, well, then it's probably lower quality equipment. But the problem today is I don't even know if that holds weight anymore. There is an array of low quality products that even the best companies out there might still offer in one way, shape, or form. So just steer clear. Understand that they're not all created equal. Not all thermostats are created equal. Not all indoor air quality products are created equal. And of course, not all equipment, not all heating and air systems are created equal. And that plays right into number 3. The third trap is that equipment itself. We're seeing a lot of products that are imported into our country, some of those claiming to be just as good, if not the best. And what's interesting is they can't all be the best. I mean, let's be honest. If we were to put all these, say, car manufacturers in a room and they all kind of stood on their own stool and said, we're the best, my question would be, best at what? Like, you're best at being the fastest car in the world. You're the best at creating the most reliable vehicle, that it's never going to break down, or at least not as often. You're the best at creating the cheapest product, right? And one thing we see with a lot of heating and air brands, and sometimes it's not even the brand themselves, it's the contractor selling that brand. They're in your home and they're telling you, oh yeah, they're the best. Well, they can't all be the best. They can't be the cheapest, the most reliable, and the most efficient system. They just can't all be that, right? Somebody's got to be better than somebody else. And that's one thing I hear from guys. They'll sometimes say to me, it's all the same stuff. They're just different stickers. I don't subscribe to that belief. I think we can all agree that the installer matters maybe more than the actual brand itself. That's the argument they'll always use. They'll say, well, you could take the best brand and have a horrible install and it's going to have problems. Well, yeah, duh. But don't tell me all of the equipment is the same quality and just different stickers, right? Don't tell me all those brands that are importing this low quality junk are the same, or they'll claim they're better sometimes. Some of the contractors selling it, that they're better than some of the premium brands that we see out there. And the other thing we see on that front is these new technologies today. Some of these brands will sell a non-communicating inverter system, which, don't get me wrong, it's a great technology. It's pretty cool that it was invented, but it's not the same. It's not the same as a high-end communicating inverter system. Non-communicating inverter is not as good or better. Some of them will say better than a communicating inverter system. It just can't be, right? It can't be because of the technology itself. It doesn't have the ability for the equipment to talk to one another and save as much energy because of that communication capabilities, and also fault codes, errors, and all the different things that those systems can do. We were a Daikin dealer at my company, and I'll just go ahead and say they have sponsored some of the content on our channel, so I don't want to look biased, oh, Josh, you're just being biased. I probably am, right? We all have our favorites, but we've done other videos on the technology, some of the cool things that they're coming out with. We did a video on something called charge integrity, a quality install, all the different products that they're offering. That communicating system can see things like if there's a problem or if it's being installed correctly because of these technologies they're coming out with. There's just no way those non-communicating systems be as good or better. There's just no way. Number 4 trap is we see a lot more surge protectors being installed today, which is a good thing. Don't get me wrong. In a world where we're constantly protecting our other electronics, things like televisions and computers and all the other things we make sure we have surge protection on, we need to protect our HVAC systems today too, because there's more electronics in them than there used to be. We need to have surge protection. But one thing to note is not all surge protection is created equal. Some of them have different voltage ratings. There's something called joules that we could probably do a whole video on. Just know that they're not all created equal. Some are better than others. Some are one and done. Some of them can absorb that surge and continue to do their job. But I'll say this, if you're watching this, you say, Josh, I hear you, but I don't need to know all that. I need to know what is the best. I want the best, right? That's easy. The best is don't install one of these surge protectors that we see out there. Do a phase monitor instead. Phase monitors can make sure that we protect the system from power surges, but other things like high voltage or brownouts and array of other problems that we see with electricity today that are bad for electronics. But the other good thing about phase monitors, if installed correctly, they, unlike a surge protector that are just wired parallel with the wiring, they don't break the power in any way. They just absorb those surges. Instead, a phase monitor will actually break power, that there's an in and an out. And if there's a problem, it won't allow it to go out. So it's just a much better form of protection. I'll put a link down in the description of this video of my favorite phase monitor. Make sure you check that out. Today's systems, you just got to have it. You're going to have a problem at some point, possibly, properly. And if you don't have protection, it could be a very expensive problem to have. Number 5 for traps, there are an array of sales tactics and traps that I've seen heating and air companies use when they're selling a heating and air system. I call them cookies. They're offering a cookie that the next guy's not. One of the ones that used to drive me nuts when I had a heating and air business for 10 years, and there would be other companies that would offer something like a free tune-up in the first year, and I would lose jobs over that. I would try to explain to homeowners, look, it's a new system. You should not need a tune-up in the first year, but it was just another little cookie that company could offer. Now, let me say this. If you say to me, Josh, I still think that that's a good thing, having them come back out, make sure everything's on the up and up. Maybe they installed the system in the winter and I want them coming back in the late spring or summer. Make sure that system is dialed in properly. The refrigerant is dialed in. It's a hot day so they can do a proper subcool measurement. Fine. All I'm saying is I wouldn't base my decision on some of these cookies or salesy things that these companies will offer. More is better than less. If they're going to offer you things that the next company's not, I'm just saying I don't know that I would base my decision on that cookie alone. Number 6, I see a lot of traps with financing and leasing companies out there. I've talked about this in other YouTube videos. I'm not going to go down this big rabbit hole, but I'll say this. There are an array of dirty things on that side of things. In my opinion, they're dirty. There are companies that will take advantage. These financing companies, they'll have dealer fees to the contractor so that the contractor has to pay them just to even offer a financing option. And you might say, well, Josh, that's part of business. And I don't want to get into all of that, but I do want to say that they will also teach the contractor how to build it into their pricing across the board, even if the customer's paying cash. And then they'll say to me in rebuttal, well, yeah, but then if the customer ends up paying cash, they can get a discount. Well, that's no different than giving the customer a price. And then if they need to finance, then you charge the dealer fee then to the customer that needs to finance. You can't say that tomato, it's the same thing. It's just packaged a different way. But I'll say this, if you're a homeowner and you don't want to fall in one of these financing or leasing traps, get your options. Ask that contractor, hey, give me your best cash price. Don't be building those dealer fees in on my price. Give me your best cash price. You don't even have to tell them you're going to get financing elsewhere. Just give me your best price. I'm going to pay you cash, right? That's what you say to them. And then you go consider your options. It's one of the reasons we started offering on our website, newhvacguide.com, because we don't have dealer fees. The contractor's going to give you their best price. Now, I'm not saying they're the best rates. The company we work with, the rates go up and down. They try to shop it around. But whether it's through our website, whether it's through your local bank, whether it's a credit card, whatever you've got to do, consider your options. I've seen people do credit cards, for example, and you might say, well, credit card, well, the interest rates have got to be way higher on a credit card. A lot of them will have 0% options, and I've seen homeowners kind of play with that a little bit. Just consider your options, get the best price from the contractor, and then see if it makes more sense to get financing elsewhere. And then finally, the number 7 trap that I see homeowners falling for that contractors are offering, and that is some of this old rule of thumb thinking. A lot of guys will say, oh, I'm old school. No, if you're doing rule of thumb, I've seen all kinds of crazy stuff out there. In a world where we're already seeing an array of systems daily, new systems being installed in new homes, undersized ductwork, the equipment's not sized properly, an array of issues. And then you fast forward 10, 20 years later, and now the system's being replaced. You, the homeowner, you're now replacing that system. And the guy that's installing it is still using old rule of thumb type mathematics calculations on sizing that system or installing that system, and it's just exasperating the problem. You're the one that ends up paying for it in the end, because a properly sized system is going to be way more efficient and way more comfortable in your home. Ignore these rule of thumbs. I even see folks comment on our videos, well, I thought that every so many square feet meant that I needed to have this many tons of cooling or heating, and that is not correct. That is an old rule of thumb, old school way of thinking, and it's not correct. The thing you want to do, even if you've got to pay for it, is you want to have a proper load calculation done. You want that equipment to be sized properly, and of course the ductwork to be sized properly as well. No more rule of thumbs, especially with today's systems. You could be opening yourself up for a whole array of issues, including future breakdowns, if these calculations are not properly done. And so that's my 7 traps. Did I miss one? Have you ever fallen in a trap with a heating and air company? Maybe it was one of the traps I mentioned or not. Maybe something else happened. I'd love to hear about that. Leave us a comment down below. While you're down there, hit that like button. Let's break that algorithm that's been suppressing our content by hitting that like button as well. And then finally, of course, if you got any value out of our stuff, just hit that subscribe button as well. If you like this video, I think you'll like this one even more. It's where I think I found the best air filter out there. You got to try it. Thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe button. We'll see you next time.